Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Dana, and today my guest is Jacob Hill. Hello, Jacob. How are you?
Hi, Dana. Doing well. How about you?
I am doing great. Before we get started, why don't you take a minute, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, excellent. I'm Jacob Hill. I'm the director of cyber operations at a small business. We support DoD, and I've been on the trail of NIST 800-171 and CMMC for nearly 5 years. Had an interesting experience of being the guy analyzing the controls and then also the guy at the keyboard setting everything up. So it's been an interesting ride, but a great experience. I'm also the founder of grcacademy.io, and I've recently launched a CMMC overview course, which I'm very excited about.
That is fantastic. I bet a lot of people are going to want to take that course. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you.
So you've definitely seen a lot over the last 5 years.
Yes.
No question. All right. So we're going to dive into something that's very important related to that. And it is going to be, is NIST 800-171 more important than CMMC? I think there is a lot of confusion, or maybe some confusion with people on the DIB side of things, not necessarily obviously on the cybersecurity side of things, but I think this is a very good topic for us to talk about and dive into a little bit. So I'm excited for this one. So our first question is, let's start with this. So what is NIST 800-171?
Yeah. From a basic standpoint, 800-171 is the federal standard for protecting controlled unclassified information on non-federal computers. And that means if you have a contract with DoD, that's your internal systems, my internal systems. It consists of 110 security requirements, or I'll probably refer to them as security controls because that's more commonly understood. If you have a government contract and handle CUI on your company's systems, you have to apply 800-171 to those systems that have the CUI on them. There is also a document called NIST 800-171A, which includes the assessment procedures for those controls. And those are what an auditor would use during an audit.
Okay. So how long has NIST 800-171 been around for?
Yeah, it's been around for quite a long time. I think at least 8 years, and it was required to be implemented by December 31st of 2017 by DoD contractors. So if this is the first time you're hearing about it, it's time to catch up, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that people don't understand. That's why I asked the question, is that this has been kicking around for quite some time. So this isn't anything new. And when we start the CMMC conversations and everybody just wants to kick the can down the road, and they say, oh, I don't need to do this. And you think, well, there's a lot you should already be doing. So, but we're going to get into that a little bit. So, which ties right into our next question. So what is CMMC?
Yep. CMMC is a DoD certification and compliance program that applies to DoD contractors. It's meant to provide the DoD assurance that its contractors are implementing the security controls of NIST 800-171. It defines 3 levels. Level 1 requires a self-assessment of 17 controls from NIST 800-171. And if you have FAR 52.204-21 in your contracts and you handle FCI or federal contract information, this could be your required level of CMMC. CMMC level 2 requires a third-party audit of all of the NIST 800-171 controls. And CMMC level 3 is a third-party audit, requires a third-party audit of the 110 controls from 800-171. And then it's going to bring in a subset of controls from NIST 800-172, and we don't know how many yet. We should know once the rule is issued here, hopefully, hopefully in the next few months. And the last thing I'll mention is the cyber accreditation body. They were called the CMMC AB, but now they've rebranded to the cyber accreditation body, and they've been involved in the establishment of an ecosystem and of assessors and consultants.
In the marketplace, yes. Yeah. Okay, well, this is very, very good. And I think that the first thing that people should start with, if they really don't know if they are supposed to be abiding by this or whatever, is they should take a look at their contract.
That's right.
Their existing contract.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we'll touch on that in a moment.
Yeah. Okay, so now people are thinking, well, what's the big difference? What's the difference between NIST 800-171 and CMMC?
Yeah, 800-171 is the main body of security requirements that CMMC will require. And CMMC does provide supplemental guidance for the controls, but the security requirements are from NIST 800-171. I will say that CMMC is the first time a large amount of defense contractors, their cybersecurity will be assessed. So it is a big deal, but we'll get into shortly that you should already be doing the stuff that CMMC will require.
Mm-hmm. And here's the moving target. So what is the current state of CMMC?
Yeah. They're currently going through a rulemaking process, and I don't think a lot of people understand the rulemaking process, but depending on the outcome, CMMC could be delayed, could be a year. If the rule was issued as an interim rule, we should start seeing CMMC requirements perhaps later this year. But if it's issued as a proposed rule, I'm not sure that many people know. It could be next year. It probably would be next year, but I'm not sure that there's a good timeline out there yet.
Are you having a hard time finding new customers? A lot of folks just like you in the IT and cybersecurity space are in the same situation. And they have embraced a new opportunity to get new clients. They're doing this by growing their online presence and maximizing the power of LinkedIn. How, you ask? I have a tried and tested method called my Cyber Social Program. I myself have been on LinkedIn and now have over 3.5 million LinkedIn views, and over on YouTube, I have over 750,000 video views. So I can show you exactly how I have done that so that you can promote your organization and become the authority in your industry. And the best part is, I've done all of this organically without one paid ad. You don't need to waste your money over on Google with pay-per-click ads. Now's the time to establish yourself. Look around. The competition isn't doing it. This is your time to shine online before they do. So if you're ready to start your online journey and future-proof your business, please, down below, click the link and schedule a time for us to have a 45-minute call where I can review the exact methodology of the Cyber Social Program. You can also click below to see some of my masterclasses, which will give you quick little snippets of a couple of things you can do right away on LinkedIn that will help with your profile. I hope to see you and hear from you soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what I was just thinking of? I was thinking because this whole gives everybody the out when they say, oh, it's not finalized, it's not finalized. We're not going to get started on CMMC until it's finalized. And so maybe people should, MSPs, MSSPs should say, listen, let's take a look at your contract and let me see if you have NIST 800-171 and I can help you with that, and start the conversation a little bit differently than the CMMC.
Yes. CMMC is, I guess you could say, is a household name, and not many people know about NIST 800-171. Not many as nearest people, but like I said, we'll talk about it. But that 800-171 is required today. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, our third-party assessment's happening today.
Yes, a government agency called the Defense Contract Management Agency, or DCMA, has a group called the DIBCAC. And there's a contractual clause in the DFAR. It's 252.204-7020. And if it's in your contract, that means that the DIBCAC can call you up anytime and say, hey, I want to assess your implementation of NIST 800-171. And I imagine that would set many companies on fire, and the sky is falling, everything's an emergency. You don't want to be in that situation. DFAR 7012 requires the implementation of NIST 800-171, and that goes back to that date of December 31st of 2017. So definitely don't want that happening to you. Third-party assessments are happening today. CMMC will broaden that out to a lot more companies, but you don't want to be in that position.
That's for sure. So let me ask you this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have heard that the DIBCAC is currently calling around to people that have those clauses, and they're asking to see their SSP, their system security plan. And that's right there. That speaks volumes. If they call you on Monday and they say, we need to see your SSP by Friday. Yes. And if you don't have one.
Yes, there are two levels of assessment for them. So a medium assessment is where they go over your SSP at a higher level, but they'll still ask for it. You'll still be required to provide it. It's purely a documentation review. A high assessment is where they look at your SSP in detail and they pull out those 800-171A assessment procedures and go through with a fine-tooth comb. And then they also look at your systems to make sure that you've implemented from a technical perspective as well.
So you definitely have to have an SSP. Let's
Yes.
start with that.
That's right.
Okay. So what should a company supporting the DoD do right now?
Implement NIST 800-171. As I mentioned, DFAR 7012 requires that you implement 800-171 if you handle CUI on your systems. Know that you're required to comply today. It's like I've been harping on. December 31st of 2017 was the drop dead date. So you have to comply. DFAR 7019 also requires that you submit an 800-171 score into a system called SPRS. And what's kind of scary about that is that the clause says that you have to have a score submitted in order to be even considered for award. So it could be a huge limiting factor if you don't have that score. Now it's up to the contracting officer to implement that requirement, but just be aware that's a big risk.
Yeah, definitely that is risk. And I don't know if people know that they either needed to submit their scores or if there was any relevancy to the score, or anything like that. So that's something else that people need to start taking a little bit more seriously. So, okay. Next question. How can I convince my company's leadership to implement the security requirements before CMMC is required?
Yeah, I would say leverage those contractual requirements from the FAR, from the DFARs. Communicate to your leadership that they could be held in breach of contract. And this is how I would do it. Communicate it as a business risk first. You can mention that these are cybersecurity requirements, but don't get into the weeds. Just talk about the business risk and say, we may not be able to compete today. Everybody hears about CMMC, as you mentioned, and they keep kicking the can down the road, but there are requirements today. And if you present it in that way as a business risk, I think that would be effective.
And I love the part about not getting into the weeds, because that's the problem is that, the C-suite and upper management, they don't want to know about any of that stuff. They just want to hear the high overview and how it's going to affect the business. Well, this was really, really helpful. So before we go, how about you tell us a little bit about your course?
Yeah, it's a less than 3-hour course about NIST 800-171 and CMMC, and it gives you a great overview of 800-171, the types of information that require protection, and also CMMC, the various levels, and the ecosystem. I feel like it's a great overview, and I'm very excited to get it out there and hope it'll be helpful to many folks.
That's great. So who is it designed to, who's the perfect person to watch it, take it?
Yeah, I think I'm targeting small businesses because there are many of them. And my concern is that they either don't know or they're in that camp of, well, CMMC is not here, so I'll keep kicking the can down the road. I'm targeting SMBs, but it's great for anyone really who wants to understand CMMC. What's interesting too is that you talk to some people in the government and they don't know about CMMC. You would think they would, but so I feel like the audience is, very, very large. But yeah, I'm excited to have it out there.
That's great. And I think, that's a perfect thing to come up with right now as a course on that. So I think you're going to get a lot of people that are interested in that. So where can they find out more information on the course?
Yep. It's grcacademy.io. You go there, you'll see a CMMC training button right there, or you can click training in the menu, and that's where you can find it.
All right, perfect. All right, well, this was really, really helpful. Thank you, Jacob, for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Information. This was a really good topic that we went over, and I think there's some confusion with it. So I'm glad we went through and kind of explained a little bit about both NIST 800-171 and CMMC. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you'll come back, do another video or something.
Yeah.
All right, great. Good. All right, thank you. Well, everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.